Welcome to Filippelli's first podcast. Today we'll be getting into one of the oldest debates in philosophy, free will versus determinism. Are we actually in control of our lives, or are we just following a script that's already been written? Today we have two contenders for the debate. One who believes your life is a story you write with your own hands, while the other says that turning pages in a book is already finished. Now to help me break this down, I'll be asking a series of questions that my two guests will then respond/debate to. First, we have Bernarby, who's team determinism. He believes that everything is predetermined, that our choices are just a result of causes we don't control. And on the other side, for team free will, is Gia. She's arguing that we do have the power to choose and shape who we become. This isn't just about arguing, it's about understanding. Now let's get straight into it. All right, let's get started. We have Bernarby to our right, and then we have Gia to our left. First question is, what is free will, and do we actually have it? Are we making real choices, or are we just following a path that's already determined? Now, Bernarby and Gia, you both have something to say. Let's hear it.
Spinoza said it best.
Free will is simple, just like I chose to answer this question first. Sorry, Barnaby, for cutting you off. But it's the ability to actually choose, not just react like a machine. We make decisions, reflect, mess up, learn, try again. If Adam and Eve didn't have free will, the story wouldn't even make sense. Why punish someone for doing what they were always going to do?
You done? All right, like I was saying before I got free-willed mid-sentence, Spinoza said it best. People think they're free just because they're aware of what they're doing, but they don't see the why behind it. You think you're choosing, but really you're reacting to your upbringing, your brain chemistry, your environment. Even your so-called change is just another domino in the same chain. Just like you answered this question first, not because you chose to, but because everything in your life led you there, Gia.
See what I'm saying? You make us sound like machines.
Yeah. I don't think machines spend this much time pretending they're free.
Yeah.
Hold up. Gia, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but this isn't an argument, it's a debate. You're both here to bring your views and points, but also here to listen. So let's keep the energy respectful, please. We're not trying to win, we're just trying to understand. So let's move on, please, to the next question. The next question goes as follows. Are we truly responsible for who we become? Where does responsibility begin with? Is it with choice or with circumstance? Now let's break that down a little further. Is who we are the result of our choices, or of everything that shaped us long before we had to say? Gia, Bernarby's up first. Go ahead.
Thank you. Now you asked where responsibility begins. I'd say it begins with illusion. People like to think they're authors of their lives, but they're really just living inside a script written by everything before them. Your genetics, your parents, your environment, your experiences. All of it shapes your reactions long before you call it a decision. Even the feeling of responsibility, it's just another learned behavior. Like mentioned before, Spinoza argued that people believe they are free simply because they are aware of their actions, not of the causes that determine them. You don't control the wind, but you convince yourself you chose the direction you were blown in.
But we do respond. That's the point, Barnaby. Sure, we're shaped by what happens to us, but we're not prisoners of it. Responsibility comes in when we recognize that we can reflect and redirect, aka free will. Look at stories of change, people who break cycles, who rise out of trauma, who own their past and grow from it. That's not programming, that's power. Even the Stoics, who believed in fate, still said we must live with virtue. We might not choose what happens to us, but we choose how we meet it.
I agree, but also disagree, Gia. You may think you're making your own choices, aka free will, right? But in a sense, you're just one result playing out against billions of other causes. And that reaction, even that, comes from something. Your ability to grow comes from experiences you didn't design. You didn't earn your self-awareness. You didn't earn your perspective.
Then what? Nothing matters? No one's accountable for anything? In my opinion, that's a convenient excuse to avoid responsibility, not a philosophy.
All right, all right. I get what you're both saying. But Narby, you're holding that we're shaped by everything, the upbringing, the environment, even stuff we don't notice. And that's what drives us, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. Well, Wajia, you're saying that despite all of that, our ability to respond, to choose, is really what defines us, right?
Yes, that's correct. And what side are you on?
Yeah, let me get back to my seat. I'm not here to pick and choose, all right? But we'll move on to the next question. And it goes as follows. All right, before we wrap this up, I want to go back to something you both mentioned earlier, Spinoza and the Stoics. What would they actually say about this debate we've been having? Would they pick a side, or would they just call us all confused?
The Stoics, they wouldn't argue that we control everything, but they would say that how we respond, that little space between what happens and what we do, that's where freedom lives.
Yeah, Spinoza would disagree. He wouldn't even ask if we have free will. He believed we're part of nature. Everything we do is the result of causes we don't control. There's a quote from him I like. Men are mistaken in thinking themselves free. Their opinion is made up of consciousness of their own actions and ignorance of the causes which determine them. Basically, you feel free, but that's just because you're not seeing what's actually driving you.
But it's not about being okay with it. It's about showing up, knowing you don't control the storm, but you do control how you stand in it. Just like Epictetus said it, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. That's not weakness, that's strength, Barnaby.
Now, what if your so-called freedom still plays by fate's rules? That's not choice. I think that's just being okay with the script.
All right, I think I've heard enough. After hearing both of you out, I'm not sure which side I can pick. But Narbi, I get what you're saying. Maybe our stories are already written in some way. Maybe there are patterns, causes, and paths already laid out for us. And Gia, I get you as well. Because even if those paths exist, we still have to choose which ones to walk. So here's where I stand. Maybe fate is real, but maybe there isn't just one version of it. Maybe there are multiple outcomes already written, and our choices, our free will, like you mentioned, Gia, decide which version we live out. In that sense, free will is a part of our fate. We choose and the page turns, but we're still the ones turning it. So no, I don't think it's all up to us, but I also don't think we're just passengers either. Any last points or comments between yous before we wrap this up?
Yeah, no comment.
And you, Gia, any comments? Well, I guess that's the end for this podcast slash debate. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did making this. Now, where do you guys stand in this conversation? Do you think we have free will, or is it predetermined?